How does a casual joke at a family dinner end with a public notice for a DNA test in my husband's hand? Why did a single comment about our son's face unlock every secret I thought I buried? What happens when a man decides to handle betrayal with quiet law instead of loud rage? My name is Isola Merrin, and I am 33. I work as a pharmacy tech, quick with labels. People think I am helpful. They do not see how much I carry. I have a husband, Mateo Alvarez, steady. We have a son, Leo, 4, who asks brave questions. I say I protect my family. I also say I deserve more. Both can be true in my mind. At Mateo's firm there is Adrian Cole, the principal architect. He is polished and kind in public. He once called me sharp and I believed him. I told myself attention was respect. I told myself I was starving and just taking crumbs. When friends made jokes about faces and resemblances, I laughed first. I said people always see what they want. I said Mateo was touchy, that work stress made him distant. I told my sister that men need guarding like medicine stock. Mateo did not shout. He noticed small things: separate mugs on the counter, a repeating calendar note, a blank page from our printer at night. He asked why I was late. I said I was working. He asked who called. I said a coworker. I felt safe. I was wrong. I woke before sunrise and moved quietly in the kitchen. I placed Mateo's mug on the far right of the counter and my mug on the far left. I told myself it looked neat. In my head, I framed it as order, not distance. Leo padded in with his socks half on and asked where Daddy was. I said Daddy was out for an early run. That was not true. Mateo was in the bedroom, awake, scrolling. I wanted space between us before he walked in. He came in calm, already dressed. He asked if I got in late because the door had clicked after midnight. I said the pharmacy inventory ran over and the printer jammed 3 times. He asked which coworker stayed with me. I said the night lead, and I used a first name I knew he would not check. I watched his eyes move to the stove clock, then to my phone on the table. The screen was face down. I told myself he was being careful because he loved me. I also knew he had started noting times. He set Leo's cereal and asked if I could send him the rideshare receipt for my late trip last week. He said he was checking our budget. I said of course and added that he was being accountant-like at home. I made it sound like a joke. He did not laugh or push. He took Leo to the bathroom to brush teeth. I thought the morning would pass, but I felt a small dread like a weight in the throat. When they left the kitchen, my phone buzzed. A preview line from a contact saved with a single emoji appeared, then vanished as the screen locked. I flipped it over and told myself I liked privacy. I had learned to keep messages short and bland, like grocery notes. I believed that bare words could not burn me. Mateo returned and looked at the mugs. He asked since when we kept them split like that. I said I was trying a new system so we could find things faster. He said the old way worked fine. He moved his mug back near mine. The gesture was small. I felt annoyed and then guilty for feeling annoyed. I decided to deflect. I told him I had applied for a tech certificate class on Thursdays. I said it was at a wellness center downtown. He asked what time. I said evening, flexible. He nodded and looked at the wall calendar. A red circle wrapped a date next week. I had not drawn it. Under the circle, in his neat small letters, he had written nothing, only a dot. He said it helped him keep track of drop-offs and pickups. I said he was turning our home into HR. He said his mind worked better with structure. He kept his voice gentle and even. That calm felt like a mirror I did not want to see. Leo ran back in and waved a daycare drawing. 2 tall figures stood next to a smaller one with lines like toy sticks. Leo said he had drawn Daddy and a tall friend because tall friends looked like family in pictures. Mateo looked at me. I said kids mix people all the time. I told Leo it was a great drawing and said we would put it on the fridge. Mateo put it on the fridge with a magnet and smoothed the paper like it could wrinkle the air. When they left for daycare and work, I cleaned with noisy energy. I opened the hallway closet to put away the vacuum and noticed a thin binder on the upper shelf. The spine read, utilities in his same neat letters. It was thicker than normal bills. I told myself he was hoarding old statements and nothing more. I closed the door too fast and the binder shifted. I steadied it and walked away. I took a quick shower and changed. On my way out, I stepped into the stairwell to call the emoji contact. The call barely rang before a soft click sounded above me. Someone had paused on the landing. I imagined Mrs. Kaminsky, our neighbour, holding her grocery tote and listening. I ended the call and texted instead, using plain words about schedules. A cold draft ran along the concrete steps. I went back inside and breathed like I had been running. I checked the photo gallery on my phone. Hidden between toddler pictures sat a close-up of a cropped document. It showed only a corner with my name and a date. I had taken it weeks ago to feel in control. I moved it to a buried album, told myself to delete it later, then never did. I set an alarm to remind me, then switched the alarm label to something harmless. I did not like how my hands shook. At the door, I saw Matteo's laptop on the desk, half closed. A cloud sync pop-up glowed for a second, then blinked out. The desktop was too clean, almost empty. 2 folders sat alone, named Archive A and Archive B. I touched the trackpad, and the screen went dark, as if it knew my finger did not belong. I told myself he was tidying because he finally listened to my nagging. I also saw that he had started making space I could not enter. He came back for a forgotten badge. He asked if I had seen his spare key. I said no and asked why he needed a new key. He said he liked to have a backup. He looked at the doormat and then at the mail stack that I had flipped face down. He did not comment. He picked up his badge from the counter and said he might be late, depending on a personal meeting. I asked what time. He said mid-morning. He looked at Leo's drawing once more and then at me. The apartment felt small after he left. The printer shook once and spit out a blank page. I told myself it did that sometimes. I slid the page back in and shut the tray. My phone vibrated again with a new preview from the emoji contact. The preview said only that the evening would be difficult, and I should not call. I set the phone on the table and stared at the wall calendar, at the neat red circle that was not mine. I reached for the door to leave for my shift. As I touched the knob, my phone lit with an incoming call from a number marked private. I let it ring out. I heard the apartment door latch click behind me as it closed. I decided to visit Matteo's office with cookies like a sweet wife. I told myself good optics beat bad whispers. The firm sat on the 4th floor with glass walls and long tables. People looked up when I came in. I said I brought extras for the team. Jonah waved from a cluster of desks and said he loved sugar. I said he could take 2 if he promised to be kind. He laughed and said he was always kind. I smiled in a way that asked for mercy. Matteo stood by a screen with floor plans. He thanked me and said the team was busy. I said I would be quick. I placed the tin near his station and put a hand on his arm. He stepped back in a polite way. I told myself he was avoiding rumours, not me. Jonah leaned over and pointed at Matteo's phone screensaver. It showed Leo in a paper crown from daycare. Jonah said the kid had the same brows as Adrian. A couple of people snorted. I said office jokes were cheap and some of us had actual work. I kept my voice light, but I made sure they felt scolded. Adrian walked through with a blue folder and the air went tighter. He nodded at me like I was a vendor. I said we had not met in a while and asked about a charity run I knew he liked to mention. He said it went well. He asked if Matteo had shown me the picnic photos. I said I loved the community spirit in those pictures. I used words like community and spirit so I sounded wholesome. He moved on, careful not to be too close. I took that as proof he feared being seen with me. I called that respect in my head. Daria from HR came to the edge of the bullpen and asked if she could grab Matteo for a quick word. She kept her tone friendly and light, but the room heard. I told her I would wait by the elevator and we could all take a break after. She said she would only need him a minute. I watched Matteo follow her into the glass room. The door closed with a soft seal, their shapes blurred through the frosted band. He kept his shoulders straight. She used her hands in small, measured circles. I told myself she was always a little too interested in my husband. I messaged Jonah on social media and said jokes about kids were low. I added that Matteo was sensitive about fatherhood after a rough year. I knew that would make Jonah feel like a bully. He wrote that he had not meant harm. I said harm did not require intent. I liked the formal sound of that line. It made me sound educated and tired. I told myself I was protecting my family. I did not ask why I needed to seed that story in the first place. By the elevators, I opened my phone and saw a fresh tag in the company event album. The image showed Leo at the firm picnic beside Adrian at a grill. Someone had written a playful caption about twins. I tapped the 3 dots to report it for inappropriate content. A woman from accounting walked by and said the album was only for staff. I said families were part of staff life. She smiled in a way that felt thin. Matteo came out of HR. He said it was nothing big and they had discussed professionalism at events. I said Daria should worry about payroll instead of tone. He said boundaries mattered and gossip hurt work. I said silence made gossip worse. He said he needed to get back to a deadline. I said I would wait downstairs with the tin to hand out more cookies. He said the team had enough sugar. His voice was kind but final. It annoyed me that kindness could feel like a lock. In the lobby, I set the tin on a bench and pretended to text a friend. The elevator dinged again and Adrian stepped out with 2 junior staff. He did not look at me. I told myself distance was proof he knew how much I mattered. That logic warmed me, even as it shrank me. I walked to the parking garage to catch Matteo before he drove off. The air was cold and smelled like oil. He stood by his car, scrolling. I said we should do dinner with Jonah to clear the air. He said dinners did not fix patterns. I said he was making a puzzle out of nothing. He said he preferred facts to feelings here. I said facts change when you learn more. He said real facts do not. He spoke like he was saving breath for something else. His phone lit with the album notification. The screen showed Leo next to Adrian. He zoomed in on Leo's brow, then on Adrian's. His thumb hovered. I said people see what they want when they are tired. He said tired people often stop pretending. He locked the phone and placed it face down on the roof of the car. I reached for it and he slid it away without looking at me. I said Jonah needed correction because he was careless. Matteo said the office would handle its own culture. I said I was helping him. He said help should feel like help. The words sat between us like a box we did not open. His trunk already held a thin, tidy box with no labels. He lifted it, checked the back seat for Leo's booster, and closed the doors without hurry. As he turned to go, the elevator opened on the garage level. Daria stepped out and asked Matteo for a quick word about event policies. At the same time, my phone buzzed with a group tag from the picnic album. I watched Matteo glance at the screen, zoom once, and lock it again. We met at a family restaurant for Lucas's birthday. Long table, too many menus, loud music. I told myself this was my stage to reset the story. I arrived early with a store cake and said I had decorated it with Leo. Teresa arrived with a small gift and said she hoped for a peaceful night. I said we would keep it light. Matteo took the seat across from me and kept his hands folded. Leo sat between us with crayons and asked if Daddy's boss would come. I said bosses stayed at work and families did parties. I said it with a laugh that asked everyone to relax. When the drinks came, I stood and tapped my glass with a fork. I said I wanted to thank Matteo for holding our home steady during a busy year. I praised his firm and mentioned Adrian as a mentor who cared for community. I used words like integrity and team. A cousin clapped early. I smiled bigger, because big smiles work well in photos. Matteo looked at his plate. I decided to lean harder. Jonah arrived late with a balloon and slid into a chair near Lucas. He said he hoped he had not missed the toast. I said he was just in time. He pointed at Leo in his chair and said the kid looked like the man who ran Matteo's floor. The table went quiet, then half of it laughed. Someone muttered that it was only a joke. I said people at the firm love to see patterns. I added that family faces are a mirror and people confuse mirrors with windows. It sounded wise in my head and empty out loud. Matteo shifted his napkin and placed it over his plate. He said nothing. That silence stung like cold. Lucas asked Jonah to drop it. Teresa touched Leo's shoulder and asked if he wanted more fries. Leo asked why Daddy was quiet. I said Daddy was shy at parties. Teresa did not correct me, but she looked at Matteo like she was measuring a pulse. Jonah said no harm was meant. I said harm did not ask for permission. The cousin with the phone said all of this made great video and held his screen higher. I regretted the toast only a little. Some part of me believed that if everyone heard the joke, it would become harmless from overuse, like a song played too much. The server set the cake down and asked who would cut. I said Matteo should do it because he had a steady hand. He stood, cut 3 pieces, and sat. He chewed slowly as if time was his. My chest buzzed with anger because he would not act the way I wanted. I leaned toward Marin and said he was punishing me with quiet. Marin said quiet could be heavy but fair. I hated that line and decided she was being dramatic. Across the room, I saw a woman I knew from the gym. She whispered to her friend while watching our table. I straightened my shoulders and laughed louder at small jokes. I thought performance could make a shield. It did not. When the check came, Jonah raised his glass and said one last time that little brows run strong in some families. I said some people needed new material. Lucas said enough, then stood and hugged his brother. The cousin filmed that too. Later I went to the gym out of habit and vanity. In the locker room, 2 wives from the firm stood at the mirrors. They said the video from the restaurant had sound and the caption was already travelling. One said she saved it. I said the internet loves trash. I added that my husband was under pressure and I stood by him. One of them asked if the picnic album was real. I said albums are not DNA. I heard my own words and felt something slip under my feet. When I got home, the apartment was dim. Matteo had put Leo to bed and left the hallway light on. I walked past the desk and smelled a faint sweetness like toner. The printer churned once, then fed a blank page into the tray. I pulled it out and told myself machines waste paper all the time. In the trash, I saw neat strips of paper like confetti. I said parties leave mess. I closed the lid and wiped the counter as if tidying could fix air. I opened my phone and saw comments on the restaurant video. People I barely knew tagged others. I told myself attention proved I mattered. Then I told myself attention was unfair. The 2 thoughts cancelled each other and left me hollow. I scrolled to the old picnic photo with Adrian at the grill and Leo on a blanket. I told myself the resemblance came from light and angle. I repeated that line until it felt like a lullaby. It still did not sing. Matteo came out of the bedroom and said he would be up early. He asked me to keep my phone on loud for daycare updates. I said of course and added that he was acting like a manager at home again. He said structure helps a house breathe. I asked if he still wanted me at his team's Friday lunch. He said the team would be off-site. He carried Leo's drawing back to the fridge, smoothed it, and turned off the kitchen light. I stood by the window and watched his reflection move through rooms like a quiet tide. I wanted him to stop, to argue, to shout so I could call him cruel. He did none of it. The apartment computer pinged with a low sound, like a soft stamp. I glanced at the wall where the calendar hung. A small digital reminder pulsed on his phone screen left on the counter. The text showed a single line. We met Teresa at the park near the river. Cool morning, swings creaking, strollers everywhere. I told myself this was neutral ground where people focused on children, not faces. Teresa asked if Leo had slept well. I said he slept like a rock. She said he seemed quiet. I said he was saving his energy for slides. I kept my voice bright and even. Matteo stood a few feet away and watched Leo climb the ladder. He did not hold his phone. He did not look at me. I felt small because he was gentle. Leo slid down and ran to a bench. He held a stick like a wand and said he had 2 names sometimes at daycare. He said one paper had Leo Alvarez and another had Leo Merrin. He asked which one was true. I said both were true because families can be flexible. Teresa looked at me and asked if I had talked to the daycare director about forms. I said yes, and added that admin mix-ups happen. Matteo knelt and told Leo his full name slowly. He kept his tone careful, like steps on ice. I told myself this was ordinary parent talk. My chest knew it was not. We walked to the sandbox. Another mother waved at Teresa and asked if the birthday dinner was fun. Teresa said it was fine. The mother said she saw a video where someone made a joke about brows. I said people online have no life. Matteo asked Leo if he wanted to build a road for trucks. Leo nodded and then asked, again, if his boss friend was family because people said they looked matched. My brain sparked. I said bosses are not family and people like to talk. Teresa said children hear everything and hold it. She said we should speak low and simple. I said I always spoke simple. I knew I did not. After the park, we drove to the pediatrician for Leo's routine check. I told myself the medical room would reset us with numbers and charts. Dr. Vale greeted Leo and asked if both parents would sign travel forms for a school trip next season. I said of course. Matteo said he would handle the forms. The doctor asked if there were any new concerns. I said Leo was strong and loved trucks. Matteo added that Leo sometimes woke after bad dreams. I said all kids do that. The doctor weighed Leo and asked him who took him to the park today. Leo said Mommy, Daddy and Grandma. Then he asked the doctor if people can have two dads by accident. The room went still. I said kids say funny things. The doctor said children ask brave questions when they feel unsure. He kept his face neutral. Matteo thanked him for the visit and said we were fine. I nodded like my head was not floating. In the hallway, Teresa said she would take Leo for ice cream to give us a minute. She asked if I needed anything. I said I needed everyone to stop making it weird. She said the world was already weird and we had to be steady for a child. I said I was steady. She looked at my shaking hands and did not answer that. We met later at the community centre hall for Lucas's planning meeting about a neighbourhood clean-up. Folding chairs, coffee in cardboard cups, flyers on a table. People greeted us with a mix of warmth and search. I kept my smile fixed. A woman from Matteo's church group approached me and said she was praying for our family. I said prayers were welcome. She asked if rumours were hurting Leo. I said rumours could not touch what was solid. She said truth was solid. I said truth also bends. She blinked like she had missed a step. Lucas handed Matteo a clipboard with a sign-up page that showed only the word statement across the top. It made my stomach dip. Matteo wrote our number and handed the board back. He kept conversations short and polite. I felt anger rise because he would not take my bait to fight. I wanted a loud scene I could call cruelty. He gave me patience instead. It burned my story. Marin joined me by the flyers. She asked if I wanted to come over that weekend with Leo. I said maybe. She said she loved me, but I needed to stop calling every concern an attack. I said she did not understand marriage. She said maybe I did not understand consequences. I told her she always sided with men. She said she sided with facts. I said facts are not the full picture. She said they were at least the frame. On the way home in the back seat, Leo asked one more time why people said he looked like Daddy's boss. He asked if people can belong to more than one home. I said homes are where people choose to love. He said then people can choose too. I felt something fall through me. Matteo said we would talk after dinner. His voice stayed even, careful. At the apartment, I carried the grocery bag inside and froze at the desk. There were 3 binders set out as if for a photo. Home, auto, bank. Each had neat tabs. A single USB stick lay near the keyboard with today's date written on it. The desktop screen showed a clean tree with Archive A and Archive B. I touched the mouse and the screen went black. Matteo walked in with Leo's jacket and set it on a chair. He said we needed to keep things simple for Leo. I said things were already simple. He looked at the binders, then at me, and said the right path is the careful one. He picked up the USB and placed it in a small tray. I stood there and told myself he was overreacting. I told myself paperwork did not mean anything. I told myself this was marriage work. I also knew the air felt different, like a room after a window is opened in winter. Leo came down the hall and asked if he would have 2 houses like his friend from daycare. Teresa knocked on the door with a bag of clean clothes and stood waiting in the frame. I stood on the balcony after Leo slept, night air thin and cold. Inside, a soft hum rose like a small machine breathing. I stepped in and saw tiny ribbons of paper in the bin. He said he was clearing old receipts. I said he was acting like an auditor at home. He said order helps a storm pass. On the screen, the desktop showed 2 clean folders, Archive A and Archive B. I said his labeling was overkill. He said clarity is mercy. He kept his voice even, and that made me angry. I tried tenderness. I said we were a team and people outside wanted to break us. He said teams list facts before feelings. I said feelings guide truth. He said truth stands without them. He opened a cabinet and slid a thin tray shut when I walked closer. The click sounded like a lock. I told myself he only needed time. At the supermarket next morning, Mrs. Kaminsky asked if Leo favoured my side or Mateo's. I said my uncles all had strong brows. She said neighbourhood talk was unkind. I said talk is only wind. My phone buzzed with a message from Marin. She said I should stop feeding the fire. I said there was no fire. She sent a single line that said, "Denial burns slow." I put my phone face down under bread. On the metro, I watched our reflection in the window. Mateo stood with one hand on the rail, calm, almost blank. His screen lit with a thread titled Follow Up. He read, then the preview vanished. I said I wanted a date night this week. He said Leo came first. I said couples need care. He said care means protection, not noise. The car rocked, and the silence filled every sway. At home that evening, he placed 2 mugs on opposite counters again. He said it helped mornings run. I said he was staging a scene. He said routines are not theatre. Leo showed us a sticker from daycare. He said his friend had 2 homes and 2 calendars. I said our calendar was simple. Mateo knelt and said, "Stability is love." My chest tightened because he sounded like a teacher and I sounded like a commercial. Later, on the couch, I tried a sweeter story. I said late nights were study sessions for a tech certificate. He asked which program and which building. I named a wellness centre downtown. He asked for the time. I said evenings, flexible. He looked at the wall and erased a tiny dot beside downtown 3:25 p.m. with his thumb. He said he would handle things without more talk. I said he was threatening me. He said he was protecting Leo. He added that he would handle it properly. The word properly sat between us like a glass pane. In the firm's parking garage the next day, he loaded a thin box into his trunk. Lucas waved and asked if he needed help. Mateo said he was fine. I said we could do dinner later and laugh again. He said laughter would return when the noise stopped. The car faced the street. He checked Leo's booster and closed the door with care. That night, I paced the balcony again and told myself he was bluffing. Inside, a phone alarm flickered on his screen. Paper drop. He silenced it at once. I asked what it meant. He said he had errands. I asked if he would forgive me for the rumours. He said forgiveness is not the same as trust. He stood, met my eyes, and repeated that he would handle it properly. I arrived at the office tower lobby with a plan to fix everything by tears and charm. The air was bright and cold. Security plants looked too green. I held a coffee for Mateo and told myself he would soften if I made it easy. He stepped in from the revolving door with his messenger bag across his chest. He kept both hands on the strap and greeted me by name like a neighbour. I said we should talk alone and end the noise. He said he had a few minutes and would keep this simple. A courier in a grey jacket walked up and asked if I was Isola Merrin. I said yes before my brain caught up. The courier confirmed my name again in a steady voice and handed me a heavy envelope. People in line for the elevator glanced over. The envelope had weight like a tool. I said this must be a mistake. Mateo said it was clarity. He did not raise his voice. He did not touch my arm. He stood one step away as if the floor had lines. I opened the envelope and saw the notice. It stated that a court had ordered a DNA test for Matteo, for Leo, and for a third party if needed. It listed a collection site across town, a date within days, and clear steps for chain of custody. It said refusal could lead to penalties and a default finding. There were boxes to initial on arrival. The paper looked plain and final. I felt a small wind move through my chest. I said this was cruel and an insult to our marriage. Matteo said it was for Leo's peace. I said he could have asked me like a husband. He said he had asked many times in calm ways and now he would follow the proper path. He kept his face steady like a person who had practiced the words. I noticed Lucas near the glass, keeping Leo busy with a snack. Teresa was not inside. I was glad and then angry that I was glad. The lobby sounds grew large. A stroller squeaked. A door clicked. My phone buzzed with a call marked private, and then stopped. I said the office gossip forced his hand, and that this was a performance for them. He said he did not perform. He said the test would give an answer, and then decisions could be made with facts. I heard the word decisions and felt heat climb my throat. I said tests do not measure love. He said tests measure claims. He remained polite. The notice included a map to the clinic and a time window. It had a line saying no food or drink for a child before the swab. It described swab placement and identification checks. It asked for IDs. It listed what to bring. I scanned to the end where a clerk's stamp sat like a small stop sign. It was the first stamp I had seen in this whole storm. Matteo said he would take Leo to the appointment and that I was welcome to attend. He said he would not discuss rumours until the result. He said he wanted quiet for Leo. He nodded once to me and once to the courier, then turned toward the door. The paper did not move under my hand. The bell chimed again.